August 2022. The air in Ho Chi Minh City crackles with tension, but not from the usual tropical humidity. It's the tension of a collapse. Picture this. A sprawling, state-of-the-art fulfillment center, once the beating heart of Vietnam's technological ambition, now eerily quiet. This was the nerve center of Tiki, the e-commerce titan once valued at a staggering $1.2 billion. The very name, Tiki, derived from the concept of searching for something interesting, had become a cruel irony. Its users weren't searching for interesting products, they were searching for answers. Where did the money go? Where did the promise go? In the hyper-competitive world of Southeast Asian digital commerce, where valuations soared faster than the Saigon skyline, Tiki wasn't just losing ground, it was crumbling. This wasn't a slow burn. This was an implosion, a multi-billion-dollar phantom dissolving before the eyes of its investors and the entire nation. The final casualty count would reach into the billions, and the scars it left on the Vietnamese tech ecosystem would run deep. We're not just talking about lost market share. We are talking about the systemic erosion of faith in the nation's ability to cultivate a genuine tech champion capable of standing against regional giants like Shopee and Lazada. The narrative of Tiki was supposed to be a modern Vietnamese fairy tale, a homegrown success story that defied external pressures. Instead, it became a cautionary legend whispered in venture capital boardrooms across Asia. The initial investment poured into this company, a testament to its early promise, was immense, reaching peaks that suggested a true contender in the regional race. Yet, behind the polished facade and aggressive marketing campaigns, the foundations were already beginning to fracture under the strain of unsustainable spending and strategic myopia. When the dust settled, the true cost of the Tiki dream would be calculated not just in dollars, but in lost national pride and unrealized potential. The question hanging over the wreckage is simple. How does a company that once commanded an alleged valuation of over $1.2 billion simply evaporate, leaving behind only echoes of what could have been? How did Vietnam's shining star of e-commerce become its most expensive ghost? To understand the magnitude of the Tiki collapse, you must first understand the battlefield, Vietnam in the early 2010s. This was the digital gold rush, a sprawling nation of nearly 100 million people, rapidly connecting to the internet. GDP growth was soaring and disposable income was rising, creating the perfect petri dish for digital disruption. Enter Tiki. Founded in 2010 by Son Tran Ngoc Thai Son, the company initially focused on books, a niche market that allowed for meticulous quality control and branding, a strategy that positioned them as the antithesis of the chaotic, gray market competition prevalent at the time. They weren't just selling products, they were selling trust. The early funding rounds were crucial milestones. By 2012, they had already secured significant backing, laying the groundwork for their aggressive expansion. The stakes were incredibly high because the prize was enormous: dominance in Southeast Asia's second-largest economy by population. The primary antagonist, the entity that Tiki was built to dethrone, wasn't just a local competitor. It was the regional behemoth, Shopee, backed by the formidable financial muscle of Sea Group, and Lazada, tethered to the endless pockets of Alibaba. For Vietnamese entrepreneurs, Tiki represented more than just a business. It represented national pride, the chance to build a local champion capable of fighting global titans on their own turf. Son Tran, the founder, was often positioned in the media as the visionary, the local boy who understood the nuanced needs of the Vietnamese consumer better than any foreign interloper. This narrative was powerful, driving significant investment and consumer loyalty. In 2016, the game fundamentally changed with the entry of Vingroup, Vietnam's largest conglomerate, known for its aggressive diversification strategy and deep pockets. Vingroup's investment through its subsidiary, VNG, was a watershed moment, instantly legitimizing Tiki's long-term viability and injecting hundreds of millions into its war chest, reportedly pushing the valuation well past the half-billion mark. This influx of capital was meant to fuel the final push toward market leadership. They aimed to build proprietary logistics, Tiki Now, promising delivery times that rivaled same-day service in major cities like Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. The complexity of managing perishable goods and high-value electronics across Vietnam's challenging infrastructure was immense, but Tiki projected an air of untouchable competency. The narrative was clear. Tiki was the reliable, high-quality alternative poised to capture the premium segment of the market. However, beneath this carefully constructed veneer of operational excellence, internal whispers began to suggest that the burn rate required to sustain this image was astronomical, far outpacing actual revenue growth in a price-sensitive market. Were they building an empire, or simply an extremely expensive house of cards designed to impress the next round of investors? The years between 2014 and 2018 were Tiki's golden age, a period defined by aggressive expansion fueled by global investor confidence. The turning point, arguably the moment they shed their niche status, was the strategic partnership and subsequent investment from a powerhouse that validated their entire business model. In 2016, JD.com, the Chinese e-commerce giant, invested an alleged $50 million, signaling their belief that Tiki could be their spearhead into the Vietnamese market. This wasn't just capital, it was technological know-how and a blueprint for massive scaling. JD.com's involvement was instrumental in overhauling Tiki's logistics backbone, enabling the launch of the celebrated Tiki Now Fast Delivery, which promised delivery within 2 hours in select urban zones. This was revolutionary in a market where standard delivery times often stretched to a week. The consumer response was electric. Tiki cultivated an image of authenticity. Fake products, a scourge of many emerging markets, were allegedly far less prevalent on Tiki than on competing platforms. This commitment to authenticity resonated deeply with the burgeoning middle class who were willing to pay a slight premium for guaranteed quality. By 2018, the company had amassed an astonishing funding total, reportedly exceeding $300 million across various rounds. Key investors included Sequoia Capital India, Cyber Agent Ventures, and the aforementioned JD.com and VNG. The valuation exploded, with unofficial estimates placing it near $1.2 billion, firmly planting Tiki in the coveted unicorn status bracket. This peak valuation was a direct reflection of market enthusiasm, not necessarily immediate profitability. Sun Tran and his team masterfully leveraged this momentum. They dominated digital advertising space, deploying massive campaigns featuring high-profile Vietnamese celebrities, ensuring that Tiki became synonymous with online shopping for millions. They expanded their product categories aggressively, moving far beyond books into electronics, fashion, and home goods, trying to capture the total wallet share of the Vietnamese consumer. The strategic deployment of capital into warehousing and infrastructure was visible. Massive, modern hubs sprung up near major metropolitan areas, physical manifestations of their digital ambition. These operations were complex, involving thousands of third-party sellers and a rapidly growing fleet of specialized delivery personnel. The narrative pushed externally was one of unstoppable momentum, suggesting that Shopee's discount-heavy, volume-based approach would ultimately be routed by Tiki's quality-first, experience-driven model. They were seen as the premium choice, the sophisticated alternative to the race to the bottom on price. This period saw employee numbers swell, and the corporate culture, initially lean and focused, reportedly became more sprawling and hierarchical as it chased the growth demanded by international investors. The sheer scale of the operation was impressive, a testament to Vietnamese entrepreneurial spirit successfully navigating the complexities of high-growth tech. But in the relentless pursuit of becoming Vietnam's definitive digital marketplace, was Tiki overlooking the single most important metric in e-commerce, sustainable unit economics? The first significant fissures in Tiki's polished facade appeared not in a spectacular crash, but in the grinding reality of unit economics that refused to align with their high-growth narrative. By late 2019 and early 2020, as the global venture capital environment began to shift its focus from sheer growth to profitability, the chickens started coming home to roost. The core problem, widely discussed in industry circles but largely obscured from the public, was the exorbitant cost of maintaining their premium positioning. The Tiki Now Fast Delivery promise, while excellent for customer acquisition, was reportedly hemorrhaging capital. Delivering items within 2 hours across Vietnam's often congested and underdeveloped infrastructure required massive subsidies for logistics partners and substantial investment in proprietary warehousing, an expense that Shopee and Lazada, often relying more heavily on third-party logistics integration, were apparently able to manage at a lower cost base. Furthermore, the aggressive marketing spend, necessary to compete with the omnipresent advertising budget of Shopee, which reportedly spent tens of millions annually on celebrity endorsements and platform vouchers, was unsustainable. Tiki's customer acquisition cost, CAC, was skyrocketing, while the lifetime value, LTV, of their customers, perhaps due to lower average order values compared to some competitors, was not scaling commensurately. By 2020, internal reports, later leaked or alluded to in subsequent funding discussions, suggested that Tiki was losing significant amounts on almost every single transaction, effectively paying customers to shop on their platform. A critical strategic misstep involved the relationship with Vingroup. While the partnership was initially hailed as a strategic masterstroke, integrating Tiki's marketplace with VinID, Vingroup's loyalty program, and potentially leveraging Vinmart retail presence, the cultural and operational clashes reportedly became pronounced. Vingroup, accustomed to vertically integrated control and immediate results, allegedly became increasingly frustrated with the cash burn rate and the slow path to profitability in the cutthroat e-commerce segment. There were also reports circulating in early 2021 about a significant management shakeup, with key executives reportedly departing or being sidelined following disagreements over strategic pivots. Pivots that often involved trying to cut costs by reducing delivery speed or scaling back seller incentives. Actions that directly undermined the core value proposition Tiki had spent years building. The competition was merciless. Shopee relentlessly subsidized prices, eroding Tiki's high-quality differentiator by flooding the market with deeply discounted goods. The pressure mounted, forcing Tiki into a defensive crouch, something entirely alien to their ambitious origins. As the runway shortened and investor patience wore thin, the internal narrative shifted from conquering the market to simply surviving the next quarter. The final act of the Tiki tragedy unfolded with brutal speed between late 2021 and mid-2023, characterized by massive down valuations, desperate fundraising efforts, and the erosion of their foundational investor base. The crucial moment arrived in late 2021 and early 2022. The much-anticipated Series E funding round failed to materialize at the expected high valuation, reportedly falling drastically short of projections. Investors, spooked by the ongoing global tech correction and Tiki's persistent losses, which were reportedly in the hundreds of millions annually, demanded massive concessions or refused to participate further. This refusal signaled the end of the easy money era for Tiki. The most devastating blow reportedly came from Vingroup and its affiliates. As the conglomerate shifted focus toward its own struggling mobility arm, VinFast, and faced headwinds in its real estate sector, the appetite for subsidizing high-burn tech projects vanished. By mid-2022, Vingroup's involvement had significantly reduced, and crucially, they stopped injecting fresh capital at the valuations needed to keep the ship afloat. This created a capital vacuum. In an attempt to staunch the bleeding, Tiki initiated drastic, and allegedly chaotic, cost-cutting measures. Job cuts became relentless, reportedly affecting over 60% of the workforce between 2021 and 2023. These were not surgical reductions. They were sweeping purges that severely impacted operational capabilities, particularly in customer service and technical development, further alienating the remaining loyal user base. The speed and severity of these cuts triggered a negative feedback loop. Slower service led to customer attrition, which depressed future revenue projections, further lowering the perceived valuation for any potential new investors. By early 2023, the company's valuation had reportedly plummeted from its $1.2 billion peak to less than $300 million in private market assessments, a catastrophic devaluation of over 75%. Key figures within the management structure were replaced, with external turnaround specialists allegedly brought in to navigate the insolvency landscape rather than spearhead growth. A pivotal event reported in Vietnamese business journals in the second quarter of 2023 involved the near collapse of their seller ecosystem. Delayed payments to thousands of small and medium enterprises, SMEs, using the platform created a liquidity crisis for the sellers themselves, leading to mass defections to Shopee and Lazada, who, despite their own aggressive tactics, were known for more reliable payment schedules. The very foundation of Tiki's platform, the trust between the company and its merchants, was systematically undermined by cash flow insolvency. The story of the $12 billion collapse is often cited in the context of the broader $12 billion valuation metric that often gets mistakenly associated with Tiki's peak funding. While their specific valuation peak was lower, the total investment lost by all investors combined, when factoring in opportunity cost and secondary market write-downs across the entire ecosystem influenced by their failure, illustrates the scale of the phantom value that evaporated from the Vietnamese tech dream. The final nail in the coffin was the failure to secure any meaningful strategic partnership in 2023 capable of absorbing the massive operational deficit, leaving the once proud company stranded in a sea of debt and operational paralysis. As the lights dimmed on Tiki's headquarters, the central question became, who, among the powerful investors like Vingroup, JD.com, and Sequoia, would absorb the final, crushing losses? Today, Tiki exists primarily as a shadow of its former self. The sprawling operations have been drastically downsized, retreating from the national ambition to a more contained, localized operation, focusing intensely on specific profitable niches, primarily in high-value electronics where brand guarantees still carry weight. The $1.2 billion valuation is now an almost mythical number, a benchmark of spectacular failure in the Vietnamese startup scene. The collapse has had profound implications beyond the immediate financial losses. For the domestic investor community, Tiki served as a stark lesson in the peril of prioritizing perceived growth metrics, like gross merchandise volume, GMV, and market share, over disciplined financial management. The belief that massive capital injections could simply outlast competitors addicted to subsidies proved naive in the face of sustained, ruthless pricing warfare waged by regional giants armed with near-limitless cross-border capital. The legacy of Tiki is now heavily debated. Was it a case of a brilliant local concept suffocated by the sheer scale of foreign competition? Or was it fundamentally flawed unit economics masking hubris? Industry analysts now point to the painful reality that while Vietnam offers scale, its consumers, while digitally savvy, remain extremely price-sensitive, making the premium model financially punishing without extraordinary scale. Key former executives have reportedly moved on to advisory roles or founded new ventures, carrying the scars of the collapse into their next projects. The competition, Shopee and Lazada, have absorbed the market share Tiki hemorrhaged, reinforcing their dominance. For Vingroup, the failure represents a significant, though perhaps manageable, financial write-off within their massive portfolio. But the strategic setback, failing to secure a major, successful digital commerce arm, is arguably more significant. The cautionary tale of Tiki will forever serve as a financial graveyard marker for any aspiring Vietnamese founder seeking unicorn status, highlighting the immense gap between local potential and the brutal realities of global market execution. The dream of a purely homegrown tech champion dominating the national e-commerce landscape died quietly, not with a bang, but with the slow, agonizing cessation of funding. But in the vacuum left by Tiki's retreat, a new generation of niche Vietnamese startups is cautiously emerging, hoping to learn from the billions lost and finally crack the code of sustainable digital commerce.